This is not your everyday run-of-the-mill GBBR. This is the Novritsch SSQ4, which can single-handedly shift the airsoft market as we know it by combining two of the most exciting ways to play airsoft straight out of the box. What you're looking at is an HPA-powered, recoil-aggressive, AEG mag-fed airsoft replica that can be converted in the matter of minutes to run on standard gas blowback mags. Now in airsoft, we already have HPA adapters to run AEG mags on gas blowbacks, and things like the Frog Kit already exist for inserts to run your GBBs on HPA. This looks the part and comes out of the box ready to go, and I think that makes it the first of its kind. If I haven't gotten your blood flowing yet, you must not be my kind of people, but if you are, strap in because we have quite the chapter book of things to test today, and we'll see if this replica is just a gimmick or the next thing you want to add to your arsenal. First of all, a huge thank you to the Novritsch team for sending it out. With the only restrictions, I share my honest opinions and post a review on the channel, which is exactly what we're going to do. But first, montage. OEM by WellPro, this is an official review of the Novritsch SSQ4. Now out of the box, this comes in two variants, GBB and HPA ready. And regardless of which one you come home with, that can be easily changed out with the HPA insert that's sitting on the inside of the magwell. Depending on which model you get will depend on which mag comes in the box, plus an extra valve without an end pass, and the questionable replacement bolt rod that claims it needs to be replaced after 8,000 rounds, which is a little unsettling if I'm being totally honest, and we might test that out at some point. No worries, during these review videos, we always go over the same few things, like accuracy, efficiency, consistency. We'll take it apart, see what it's made of. We're going to have to double down, do it twice, and just see how both power outputs perform, not just one. To make sure we take into regard labor laws, we'll start with HPA, because mine came with the conversion kit pre-installed, so that way I only have to diddle with it once. Dressed to impress, the SSQ4 comes straight out of the factory in a beautiful burnt bronze, green. Honestly, it could be blue, I'm colorblind, I have no idea, I just really like the color. And when it comes from an AR model, it's hard to do it different, but I definitely think they went ahead and knocked it out of the park with this one, with anything different that they could possibly do. Specifically the stock, I really do enjoy the look of it. I think it looks comfortable, I think it feels comfortable, it is a buffer tube, and it's just not big, chunky, and in the way. The rubber pad on the back is enough, but nothing special. It has ambidextrous sling attachment points on both sides of the front and on the back. They are not steel, I regret to inform you, so be careful using steel QD points. You may wind up wearing these out over time and they may not hold. To experience all 5 positions of the buffer tube stock's extension, you're actually just going to press this trigger mechanism on the inside of the stock. That also, in front of it, has another sling attachment point, which I would probably prioritize over these, being they aren't steel. At the buffer tube's base, you'll also see 3 more sling attachment points, all of which are still not steel, on the right, left, and on the rear, which I actually really like that one. The fire selector switch, the bolt catch and release, and the mag release are all made of steel. They all click into place really comfortably, nothing feels loose, wobbly, or out of place, and they are all ambidextrous and accessible from the opposing side. The aluminum charging handle features wings on both sides that do activate the latching mechanism, so you can grab it from either side if you please, or both. And the trigger is a straight blade competition style trigger, that of which is relatively solid and similar to the CGS system. It's a heavy trigger pull, a little bit more similar to real steel, less like the NWS. And as you can see, a little bit of reset. And there's a straight wall the moment the hammer wants to drop. The grip has a sandy wood grain style texture on it. It's really not the best thing in the world. It's kind of smooth and can be replaced. And the trigger guard you'll see is an absolute chonker. And there's a reason for it. It's not just looks. That's actually the area that the line goes through to reach the base of the grip. This does feature a steel ejection cover and a bolt made of aluminum, which is half bolt, half travel, by the way. I'll explain that later. And a steel TDC hop-up dial that's easily accessible, toolless, and plus and minus arrows to indicate which direction you need to twist it, which is really cool. It twists into place nice and firm, but could be firmer, and the clicking feels a little weak. The handguard and outer barrel are both made of aluminum. The handguard features M-lock on both the east and west and south sides, QD points on the left and the right, and tons of rail space as you'd expect any AR platform to have. This is not the flash hider that comes on it. This is actually one I threw on here because it came with the orange plastic one. However, it is covering 14mm counterclockwise threads, so you're good for any adapters you need. Now, some of the hidden features are things like the end pass installed on the inside of the nozzle, and I do want to say when it comes to power regulation, ditto with the end pass, not your HPA. I find things run best if you tune your regulator to 120 PSI and instead use the end pass to regulate output power. Now, the mags are quite unique in their design. They don't look anything like a standard AEG mag when you look at the top, but the base is super simple. It's closed off with the standard spring and follower design. If you look, you can see the follower here, and it's got a two-prong system, almost like the AEG Evo mags to hold the BBs in place. This is the small little guy that's going to help activate and deactivate our bolt catch and release when we're on empty. And this massive track is the space for that line to go through when you're running the HPA kit. I have the Vanguard loader preloaded with 0.32 gram BBs. Now 120 BBs is quite a lot, and I'm gonna say I wish they made real cap mags as well. I would imagine in the near future they're going to, but we'll have to deal with the 120 for now. Now if you can see the HPA line there, basically that groove sits around on the outside so we don't mush our line around, but it can still feed to the insert on the inside of the mag well. The mags do sit extremely tight. Obviously the tolerances don't necessarily matter just because there is no gas flowing between this mag and the feed lips. All of that is tethered inside of the replica and that's going nowhere. Now if you want to avoid breaking things when plugging in your HPA line, make sure you start with either the bolt set back or the hammer dropped, because if you don't, the first time you plug this in it's going to cycle around and it's a ton of air that goes through the first insertion. It's completely unregulated and you could damage the internals. Now here goes the fun part. We're going to plug it in and make sure there's no leaks. I think we're good. All I'm going to do is go ahead and drop the bolt, and being it's HPA, obviously we're going to be able to finish a mag on air because we have a massive air tank on our back. But what I do want to see is how well it cycles. Does it cycle every round on semi, on fun mode, and does it lock back at the end? Because something that's really important to me, especially when you were to go and get an adapter for AEG mags to GBBs, you lose the bolt lock, and the bolt lock is so important to me. The manual of arms is 50% of the reason that I run gas blowbacks exclusively. So we're just going to go ahead and start this guy on semi and see if she doesn't cycle. Cycles just fine. Like I said before, the trigger's pretty heavy, but it's extremely snappy, and the reason being is because this is actually a half travel bolt, and we'll take it down later. No problems. Run a little fun mode. Back to semi. Trigger takes a little getting used to. That thing is heavy. We locked back. There is still a BB there. Now, I believe the reason there's still a BB there is because there's a small feed track here between the mag we just inserted and the insert on the mag well. I think 3 BBs are going to fall out just like a standard AEG would, because there is nothing pushing tension on the follower anymore. Yeah, you see those drop out? And like 2 or 3 BBs came out, but the bolt did successfully lock back, which is absolutely awesome. Just for proof, I want to show you I have the hop-up set, and I will say that visually it's not the most attractive thing in the world, but the fact that you can access the TDC hop-up without a tool on the field is great, in case you have to adjust BB length, BB flight, or let's say you start to lose power output on your HPA tank and need a little extra hop-up to put the last few BBs down range. That will help you out. So again, just proof. There we go. We weren't seated in all the way. BBs are flying straight, but if I drop that all the way down, you should start to notice the BBs dropping fast. Super nice, super easy to access. The only thing is, if you want to place any of your optics a little bit further forward, you lose this section of rail space, so you're going to have to adjust based off that. Now, when it comes to HPA tanks, I want you to think of them like the gas reservoir inside of each of your gas mags. This reservoir is absolutely massive. The other thing is, compressed air doesn't have cool down like a standard gas mag would. So when it comes to regulating pressure, HPA tanks always win. That's why they do so well in the cold. So what we want to do is check out the FPS consistency at 0.32 gram BBs and see how well the SSQ system does on consistency. Because it's literally the SSQ system. It's how well do things like the nozzle and the router make contact. It's how well do things like the nozzle seal off between the hop-up bucking when it has a BB in front of it. It's all of those things instead of just the gas reservoir, because we have extremely regulated amounts of pressure coming through our HPA line. Okay, here we go. We're running at 326 FPS at 1.59 joules, 334 FPS at 1.66 joules, 334 FPS at 1.66 joules, 337 FPS at 1.69 joules, 333 FPS at 1.65 joules, 336 FPS at 1.69 joules, 337 FPS at 1.7 joules, 335 FPS at 1.67 joules, 335 FPS at 1.67 joules, 334 FPS at 1.66 joules, and 334 FPS at 1.66 joules. And our consistency, honestly, really like a 2 to 3 FPS consistency change between most of our shots, besides the first one, which was a little bit out there. It was low. But for a recoil aggressive replica, that's not bad at all. Let's check out accuracy at 70 feet. SSQ4 in. And let's make sure we hit the target. We do. Speaking of target, we'll put the target on the target. Now remember, we're not looking for where we hit on the target, but instead the groupings we have on the target, because we're taking the user error out using the tripod. So we'll go ahead and see what kind of groupings we have. 3, 2, 1. 10 shots. Miss. Hit. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All the black circles, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, are all that made contact on the piece of paper. The rest dinged the target besides one that went flying off to the right. And we'll go for another cycle of 10 just for proof of concept. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And with our second round of 10, we only had 6 make contact. I know specifically that 4 flew directly off of the target. I watched them fly off. So that second round actually got a lot worse. So the spread could be larger than just this patterning we have here. With accuracy straight out of the box, it's a little bit less than to be desired. I do think that we can improve it with an upgraded bucking and barrel. Let's take out the HPA unit and see how quickly we can do so. Set the hammer, back pin out, front pin out. Split the upper and lower. And we'll put the upper aside, we don't need it anymore. All we're going to be working on is the lower. First, we'll take off the grip. If we pull the HPA line forward, you can see the screw in there at the base. Once loose, it'll pop off, and you can pop out that little nut. While looking at it, the line was slightly crimped to begin with. It didn't seem to affect any power, accuracy, or anything like that, but it is a little concerning. I think a higher quality tube would help. Next is the small pin in the back of the bolt catch and release. We'll push it from the back to the front. Be careful, this is under spring tension, so we'll pull this guy out, up and off, and we'll take the spring out with it. To remove the inside part and the other side, we're going to push from right to left and begin to twist counterclockwise. Once it's unscrewed all the way, that part will pop out, and slowly release tension on your finger because there is a spring on the inside. Next is the trigger box. We have 2 pins that are knurled on the right side, so we're going to go ahead and pop those out from the opposing side. The one directly in front of the safe and the one directly above semi. 2. Next is the screw at the base of the trigger box. It's beautiful to see this Loctite in place. Also, there's a small washer that comes with it. Don't lose that. We're also going to have to drop out the fire selector. There's a screw on each side. I recommend taking out the right, and then we can pull it out from left to right. And with that smoothly removed, we're going to push it out from the right to left side, and all you really have to do is continue to wiggle it. It'll fall out of place. With that finished, we can use the trigger to push the trigger box upwards and pull the entire unit out. Just be careful, there's a few exposed springs. Set that aside. There's a pair of Allen bolts on either side of the trigger guard we have to use to remove, so we can split this apart and get the hose out. If we carefully wiggle it upwards, we'll get into a position where we can actually pull it out of the magwell position and split that clamshell apart. There's another bolt in the base that holds the entire unit inside of the lower receiver that will unscrew. And I'm thrilled to inform you with that finished, you can finally remove the entire unit. It is slotted into the front of the receiver, so just be careful. All you have to do is actually pull this from the back end and tilt it up and forward. And there you go, your HPA module. And as you can see, it kind of takes place of the upper portion of the gas mag. Now to convert it back to gas, we just reinstall everything without the HPA module. And just like that, you would actually have absolutely no idea that this was previously an HPA conversion. And you can see the gas mags sit in now. A little bit loosey-goosey. But it, in fact, is now your standard run-of-the-mill in GBBR. Let's take it outside. Now, the gas conversion was not the fastest thing in the world. However, it was easier. And to be honest, when you have to line something up with the fire control group like that, this is probably the easiest it's going to get. We'll go ahead and turn on the Vanguard speed loader and throw the adapter on. Now again, for the entire portion of this test, we have 0.32 gram BBs. And that appears to load no problem with a 37 BB cap. We'll be overfilling these mags with Coleman propane, just keep that in mind. And I'm going to be overfilling them the entirety of this video just so we can push this thing to the absolute limit when it comes to gas efficiency. I'd recommend sticking to about 7 to 10 second gas fills though. Now when it comes to gas blowbacks, obviously temperature matters. It is 78 degrees outside and pretty dang humid. And what I want to do first is check out how many mag fills of BBs we can get through a single gas fill on the gas mag. Here we go in 3, 2, and this is my first time firing the gas mag. 1. We're feeding no problems. Little puff of gas out the front, but that's fine. Obviously, because we overgassed. Just as snappy as before. Recoil feels exactly the same. And our bolt did in fact lock back. We emptied the mag. Let's fill it again. Another full mag. Here we go. Wanted to give that one no forgiveness, and we in fact finished a full second mag without any feeling of slowdown at all. Again, 0 forgiveness. Hopefully we get through the third. Oh, I feel a little bit of slowing down there. You heard that different sound or the different pop? On the last one, it bursted 2 BBs out, and that is absolutely everything we have from the mag. So it starts to cool down nicely, where it doesn't seem to just like get really weak for a while. It almost just like stops on the last 2 or 3 BBs, as opposed to getting sluggish for like 10 to 15. So before we do the fun test, which is fun mode, and we run this thing straight through an entire bag as fast as we can, I want to address something. I've noticed for some reason the mags will not go in unless the hammer is set. The bolt does not have to be locked back, but the gas mags don't want to go in if the hammer isn't set. And afterwards, we're going to take a look at that and see if the valve knocker lock is the problem, because I think it might be, but super odd. So we'll just go ahead and actually start the bolt back. I'll show you that later. Drop the mag in. Remember, this is an overly gassed mag, so I'm going to give it a little burst to start, and then we'll just send her home. 3, 2, 1. Beautiful lock back. Tons of extra gas. I'll fill it again. Before we switched from the semi to the fun mode as well, this mag was working on maybe maximum of a 5-minute cooldown because we absolutely love to push things to their limit and see how they can handle in the worst possible conditions. Oh, I thought we locked back there. No? We're out of gas. We just barely didn't make it through 2 mags. Honestly, it's not too bad on a 5-minute cooldown. See what I mean? Hammer's not set. As long as the hammer's set. Isn't that weird? We'll take a look at that in a second. One more time just to show you exactly what I'm talking about. We are not setting the hammer. The mag doesn't want to go in no matter what we do. But if we set the hammer, the mag sits in just fine. What I want to see, if it's the valve knocker lock that's causing that problem, or not the valve knocker lock, but the valve knocker. So you can see this little protrusion down here. I wonder if it'll go in without the hammer set. See how it gets kind of stuck? As soon as we drop the hammer, does that change anything? No? That does. Very interesting. It's not the biggest problem in the world, but it could be an issue if you're under pressure and load a mag without the bolt locked back or the hammer set. Now, as we know by now, this model does come pre-installed with an end pass. And with an Allen key, we'll tune it all the way to one end of the spectrum so we can get an idea of its power. And with that, we're reading 168.5 FPS at 0.42 joules with a 3.2 gram BB. And what if we crank it the opposite way to its absolute max power? We get 405 FPS at 2.44 joules on a 0.32 gram BB, which is nearly a 230 FPS jump, which is huge. So tuning this for outside or indoor field limits is going to be no problem. And I've heard this thing is hungry for heavy BBs, so I'd imagine that high FPS range is why. Back at the midpoint here, I'll go ahead and take 20 BBs and we'll see what kind of FPS drop we have through a whole mag. Without a cooldown on fire rate, the drop is relatively consistent, minus the first shot, which is at 411. But you start to look at some numbers like 399, 398, 396, and we're dropping between 1 and 3 FPS on the way down. And as you can see, as we continue to get lower, it continues to get lower because we gave it no cooldown and there's no time for the gas mag to build up pressure again. Even with a small jump back up, by the bottom shot at 20, we're looking at 374 FPS. And at the top shot, ignore that one, we're looking at 399 FPS. So the drop is very small, honestly, especially with no cooldown. If you had cooldown between shots, that pressure would build back up again, and I'd imagine you're going to have more consistency. That's not bad at all. What I feel is unique about the gas mags and worth addressing is this little switch at the top that has a lock and an unlock. And the unlock switch, obviously, what we're going to do is fire this guy. And the bolt locks back. If we release the bolt and fire again, the bolt locks back. However, if we go ahead and take this guy out, switch that to the, it's not easy to switch, locked position, and we reinsert the mag, it's our dry fire switch, which is really cool in case you want to use this model for just planking around or movie and cinema based things, but that's not something I'm going to be using. I do like the fact that it's stiff though. So I've already shown you how to take down the lower, but what I haven't shown you is the build materials and construction on the interior. So why don't we do that now? Again, like I said, it's modeled off the Well Pro series, but we have an entirely steel hammer group with rollers to help reduce wear on the bolt carrier. They also mentioned that the steel bolt release and bolt catch. We have a steel valve knocker, our disconnect, and all of our sears. Everything inside the fire control group is in fact made of steel, so longevity should be no problem. Even nicer to see, you don't actually lose the hammer if the rollers start to wear down too much. You can drop the pins out and install new rollers too. As mentioned previously, this is the half travel bolt. The reason it's half travel is because the buffer tube is blocked off and it can't take a standard buffer tube style buffer and spring. So we have a fast and half travel bolt. Now, a portion of me wonders if they did this for the different stock options that you can install on here, or if they did it as a money grab because they knew that everybody is going to want a full travel, full steel, full recoil bolt at some point. They mentioned that's coming out in the near future, so just something to keep in mind. The bolt is aluminum, as well as the big plate on the back that says do not rotate. The steel insert on the back is the only steel part on here besides the spring. Something interesting that I noticed right out of the box is it is like a dual buffering system. So the buffer in the back is actually spring-loaded to take some cushion. And then also spring-loaded is the bolt as it connects to this big block in the back. The rod, like I said, is aluminum. This is the rod that they mentioned we'd have to replace after 8,000 rounds. And the nozzle and end pass are spring-loaded and very stable inside of the bolt housing. Something else, be careful when you take this out. There is a plate here that's a little hard to remove, but it can just fly out if you're not careful. This plate will cause massive jams if it falls out during takedown, so make sure that's always inserted and stuck in place before you reinstall the bolt. I'm just going to totally loosen the TDC hop-up dial on the top until the thing comes completely loose from the upper receiver. We'll go ahead and pull this out carefully. You can see all the grooves there that help with the clicking function of the hop-up dial and lock it in place. You're going to want something with some length so you can get torque on these. We're going to remove both of these bolts. And I don't know if you could see this, but the rear one actually came pre-stripped for me, which is great to see. Loosened, the handguard should slide off the front. Go ahead and take the wrench. We'll insert it and we'll twist. Loosey-goosey. Go ahead and slide that guy forward. And then our barrel and hop assembly come out. Make sure you don't take these pieces apart too. I don't know if you could see it, but on the inside there's a spring and detent, and then this entire piece. We may actually be able to just keep this in here to make sure it doesn't go sliding out all over the place, but we're going to have to take this back out in order to install the barrel again. Now you can see this little arm here. This is actually your hop arm. This applies pressure or tension down to your hop unit, or in your hop rubber, and that's also the same place that the dial makes contact with in order to apply pressure. We're going to go ahead and drop off the 4 grub screws, 2 on each side. All 4 of which have Loctite right out of the box, which is a huge value increase to me. And with those removed, we could separate these guys. This is that like hop nut that has the insert for the nozzle. But you can see the hop unit, which is what looks to be a clamshell design and is held together by an O-ring. There's that hop arm. There's the hop rubber. And it's interesting, we have what looks to be like an aluminum sleeve around the outside, including the aluminum ring on the outside of the bucking. The hop-up design is very simple. Has 2 screws we would use to take this down. I'm not going to go any further from there. It's a very simple lever design. I do wish the hop arm was made of metal. It looks like it's made of plastic. And the one problem with plastic hop arms is when you use heavier weight BBs and you get to like a really aggressive amount of tension on a hop-up rubber is you can actually bend it a little bit, which means that each BB isn't going to love the same amount of tension as it goes to the barrel. You can almost like warp the hop arm. So a steel or aluminum hop arm would be a huge, huge upgrade to me, but something aftermarket I'm sure will be available at some point. I think that's all I got for you guys. I had an absolute blast. I want to say a huge thank you to Novritsch for sending this out. It's an absolute pleasure, and I'm thankful to be part of all your new releases. I think that this absolutely opens a can of worms for a lot of different companies, including the Novritsch team themselves. Specifically the fact that now we're looking at a platform that is HPA blowback, which takes a lot of the negatives and difficulties you have with gas blowback and keeps it in an attractive sleeve to allow you to run things like faster paced games, out in the winter, less cooldown, less problems, more air, cheaper mags. And I think it would be really cool if not only Novritsch, but other companies started exploring this as well. And went the route of things like AKs, MP5s, MP7s, and all those other popular platforms because I would love to see something other than an AR. Really cool. You heard my likes, you heard my dislikes. I think the only thing that I would change about this video is if I could test out different ammo weights or different BB weights. Again, I'm a one-man army. I can't do that. I wish I could. It's a lot, and I'm trying to do as much as I can for you guys. So I hope you really enjoy all the work that I put into these. I work my ass off, and I have a blast doing it. And until next time, let me know what you think. Let me know if you like it. Let me know your dislikes. Let me know if you have ones, and I'll catch you on the next adventure. Peace.